It is simply a fact that there are many dudes who are too retarded to die and yet not strong enough to live. And semen retention will expose all of those parts of you that are regressing into retardation and are capable of being a monster. Now, you might ask yourself, well, why would I want to be capable of being a monster? It's like, well, those are kind of the polar extremes that you're going to have to balance out between the two on this journey. And you're going to have to recognize that semen retention in of itself is just one aspect of the over-encompassing thing. It's not just one piece of the spiritual, like, well, it is just one piece of the spiritual puzzle, but it's not the piece, and it's not an idol. A lot of people idolize semen retention, and that's where their retardation comes into play as well. If you think that semen retention is going to give you all of these magical powers and all that stuff, like, look, there are certain benefits, and you're going to notice these kinds of benefits. You're going to notice the women being attractive to you. You're going to notice that money's going to be a little bit more easier to flow to you. You're going to notice that life is just very different, and it's going to be more like a cartoon than it is anything else. You're going to notice people's energy a little bit more, but it's not the end all be all. Okay, if you're not growing close to God on the journey, well, you're not actually moving forth. You're just trying to be stuck in the material world thinking you're spiritual. And that's why I say you kind of have to be capable of being a monster. Well, because you're going to intimidate some people sometimes with your energy. You're going to intimidate people whether you like it or not. And this is only if you actually get control of yourself. Okay, don't expect to go 3 to 6 days or whatever and be like, oh yeah, like I'm gonna, my energy is just too much. No, not at all. You're on the surface still. Okay, if you can go 3 to 6 days, that's all right. That's good. But if you can't go more than like 2 to 3 weeks, 4 weeks, and you're having an issue with that, you're still kind of at the beginning. I'm just going to be real with you, okay? Because on this Semen Retention Sunday episode, this is about retards and monsters, okay? And if you're going to be, and sometimes it's okay to be a little retarded. Sometimes you got to be a little retarded when it comes to understanding semen retention and just being it, right? But sometimes you got to be capable of being a monster. But you have to know when to balance that and how to balance that and why it is even the case that you need to balance it. Because, well, a lot of people might think, well, I don't need to do that. I don't need to do this. I don't need to do that. But. Like, I don't need to do semen retention because I'm already close to God. I can still go out and be a degenerate and be close to God. Okay. See how far that gets you in life. Okay, see how far that really gets you. Because for me, something that I've realized is that caring about your own life and caring about other people is really the trick to life. Because life is about relationships, right? That's something that Kevin Samuels said. He said, life is about relationships. And I think that that's true. And the trick, though, is to care about people without accumulating a spiritual or emotional tax of mistreatment on yourself for the sake of caring. That's the true key effort there. It's like, how do you balance that exactly? What do you do exactly? And how do you operate in a way that's not going to incur debt or interest on your spirit simply because you care? Because I was thinking about this the other day, where one of my biggest fears that semen retention revealed to me is needing to need people. I fear needing to need people sometimes, and the reason is because caring about people, genuinely caring about people, it made me broke, it made me used, it made me misunderstood, it made me all these different things. And I realized, I was feeling kind of the weight of my own existence over the past few days pretty heavily. And it was kind of like an avalanche that was just crashing on me over and over and over again. And something I was thinking about was how, you know what, this is not guilt, this is not shame, this is not failure. This is a feeling of being misunderstood for so long and mistreated for so long. I genuinely feel as though the way that I move in the world is I move with integrity and I move with a sense of righteousness, but sometimes I just care too much. I really do. Like that is one of my biggest issues, is I see potential in people where there is no potential. And because I see their potential, but I also see their energy. Okay, and I'm really good at seeing energy, but sometimes I want to believe that these people can do something more because they claim to want this, right? They claim to want this. But this is where you have to be capable of being a monster. You have to be capable of being a monster, otherwise you're going to get taken advantage of, you're going to get mistreated, you're going to get misused, you're going to be indebted to ingratitude from other people. Okay, that's kind of where you have to recognize the trick to caring and to not caring. And that's something that I've thought quite a bit about, is that, you know, how exactly is it the case that I can help people, but not at the cost of me? Okay, because that's not acceptable. It's not acceptable for me to help people at the cost of my own self. And what I found is that most people don't, they just don't. They don't want to help themselves. They just don't. And it's only the people on semen retention and sun gazing and doing all these, like, I'm not saying that those are the avenues. I'm saying people who are open to this kind of stuff. People who are actually open to trying this stuff, to meditation, to prayer, to, you know, just being out in nature, being real and authentic. These people who are open to that, they're going to be the ones that I want to be around. They're going to be the ones that I want to be around. I simply cannot afford to be around people that don't know how to have just conversations. Like, the art of conversation is so lost. And I think one thing that you'll notice on semen retention is that most people are just so freaking retarded when it comes to the art of conversation. They're so retarded, bro. They cannot have a go with the flow conversation at all. They can't do it. And they can't stay on task either. Like, they can't stay on task. Like, if there's something that needs to be done, like, I've had business meetings before in the past, right, where women are just complaining about complaining in the middle of the meeting. And it's like, aren't we here to work? Like, aren't we here to do business? Like, it's almost like women are not meant to be in the workplace. But, like, you know what I'm saying is that you just see the retardation of people and the way that they gossip and the way that they talk about all these things. And it's just like, I don't get it. Like, I don't understand. I do understand, but I don't understand. You're so focused on nothing for the sake of nothing. And I just don't even want to be around that kind of stuff anymore. I just can't afford to be around that kind of stuff anymore. And the reason being is because they're themselves they're not grateful, and they're ungrateful for their own existence. And it's tough to watch. You know, it's tough to watch. And then all of a sudden, when you start to, like, redirect and refocus and get them to stay on task and get them to stay focused on the task at hand instead of doing whatever, wherever, over there, all of a sudden you're the bad guy. And so you have to have this ability to see, like, okay, well, who exactly am I supposed to be? Who do they want me to be, and who am I meant to be in this moment? And that's what semen retention will teach you to some degree. Okay, semen retention will teach you about how to actually live in accordance to that which is true. Because you can't fake this stuff. Like, you cannot fake the energy that you get on semen retention. Women know this. Men will respect you more. And yes, you'll intimidate a lot of people sometimes, but it's not about that. It's not about that. A lot of y'all are vain. A lot of y'all are vain. If I put out a video talking about all of the great spiritual insights of semen retention, it'll get maybe half the views that I get if I put out a video about how you're going to intimidate people on semen retention. Y'all are vain. A lot of y'all are vain. And it's sad. It's sad because it tells me that your ego is still very much involved, you know. And I know how to market to people, but it's just the truth, you know. It's just the truth. A lot of y'all are still stuck in the world thinking that you're not. And I don't know. It's just, sometimes I don't understand how people can lie to themselves so much, because, and this is where I'm being a monster right now to some people, and I don't want to be. I don't want to have to say these things, but I have to, because I have to, like, it's my sacred duty to expose the hypocrisy and the lies and the deception. And yet at the same time, it's like, you know what, maybe Machiavelli had a good idea. You know, maybe he had a good point about the way that the world really works, right? Maybe Nietzsche was right about being the Superman. You know, I used to think Nietzsche was pretty vain. I used to think Nietzsche was pretty existentially corrupt. And you know, the more that I read him nowadays, the more I'm like, huh, he's just saying it how it is. Like, he's just saying, he's not trying to be existential, or he's not trying to be rude. He's just literally saying how it is. You know, like there's something that I was reading earlier, and it was it was just so crazy because it was so true, you know. Yeah, this was it. He says, "What is man? A mass of diseases that reaches out into the world through the spirit? There they want to get their prey. But what is man? A coil of wild serpents that are seldom at peace among themselves? So they go forth apart and seek prey in the world." Sounds like a lot of people, right? And that's from Thus Spoke Zarathustra. And so a lot of people go out and seek prey. They seek prey. They're predators, but they don't want to admit that they're predators. They're monsters. They don't want to admit they're monsters, because as soon as you expose them, they get, you know, they get dismissive. They have this you know, the plausible deniability, all that stuff. They have this ability to do, oh well, but I really didn't intend for this to go that way. Well, there are consequences and there are effects and there are actions in timelines. In timelines, there's a cause and then there's an effect, right? There's an action and an effect. If you are on a timeline where you're aiming to be on semen retention, let's say, and you're trying to quit corn and all that stuff, and your energy is all about trying to manifest something with regard to money or women or whatever, you don't think that that's going to have an effect on the people around you? You don't think that the malevolence that is actually dwelling in your heart, it's actually malevolence, right? It's vanity, it's pride, it's malevolence, because you're trying to use people. You know, you're trying to use people. That's what it really is. You're trying to use people for gain, for material gain. And look, There's nothing wrong with luxuriousness. There's nothing wrong with providing a service or a product in business that is actually going to be really useful and helpful for people. Not at all. There's nothing wrong with that. But what's wrong is trying to take advantage of people because you're trying to see if you can spiritually manipulate the laws and the fabrics of reality. Okay, and that's what a lot of elites do. Okay, that's what a lot of elites do. How do you think they have their billions and billions of dollars? Okay, have you ever heard the saying that millionaires don't believe in astrology, but billionaires do? Okay, why do you think that is? Because they're trying to use the spiritual fabric of the universe to manipulate the masses so that they can contain power and live forever in the material plane. That's what they want. They want to live forever in the material plane and be powerful and have you be their slave. They do not want you to realize your full potential of consciousness. They want you to be a retard. They don't want you to be capable of being a monster. They just don't. They don't want you to be capable of knowing that you can fight if you really want to. They don't want you to know that your imagination is more powerful and more amazing than anybody could ever possibly imagine, because it's you and you. Like, it's between you and God. And what's crazy is that I really don't know how long it's going to take for people to wake up. I've sat back and I can only shake you so long before I realize, like, oh, you're pretending to be asleep. Got it. Because that's what it feels like for a lot of people. And I'm going to keep doing what I'm going to do, of course. But I'm going to tailor my message for the people that know that we have to be capable of being monsters. We have to be capable of being the lions. Okay? When we are lions, what do male lions do most often? They protect the territory and they fight when necessary. Otherwise, they chill out amongst each other. That's what I want to do. I want to be around people who want to be lions. I want to be around men who want to be capable of being monsters. And yeah, maybe they listen to their inner retard a little bit here and there. Because you kind of do sometimes. You kind of just have to go with things sometimes and just do the thing, get feedback, make the adjustment, right? Because that's a timeline in of itself. That's a timeline. So if you can have coherence in the timeline, you can act without a sense of compression in the timeline, and you can live in accordance to that which is true and good and merciful and just and beautiful. That's a good timeline. That's a good timeline. That's a high value timeline. But all these low value timelines where you're still stuck on counting the days of semen retention, for example, you're stuck on not watching the corn, like, let's get beyond this. I just don't have the it's not even the patience. I've been talking about this for like 3 years. I feel like that's a pretty decent amount of patience. I just don't have the ability to continue to speak to people that are on the start line. It's like, can we get off the start line? You know, can we get off the starting line? There's a whole world out there. There's a whole sea of information and chronology and astrology and geometry, and there's a whole world to discover. There's a whole sequence of events. There's history to look at. There's so many other cool things to do and to talk about and to be about. And you're stuck thinking about how you can't stop playing with yourself. Golly, man, like, let's move beyond this. Like, it's an important practice, and there are true spiritual benefits that come from the practice of semen retention. But there's more. Okay, there's more to you and there's more to life than trying to quit the corn. There just is. And if your circumference of knowledge doesn't grow, and you don't realize that the more your circumference of knowledge is growing, the more your unknown is growing, there's a whole universe, like there's the whole multiverse for all Christ, like for all intents and purposes, for Christ's sakes. Like there's a whole multiverse out there, and you're stuck trying to think about how you can't stop playing with yourself. Like, I don't know. It's this world is just so perverted. I heard a saying recently on another account. It said something like, I can't remember the person's name, but they said something along the lines of, "We're gonna leave the world," and they were quoting somebody else who I don't remember the name of, but they said, "We're gonna leave the world as wicked as we found it." And you know what? I think that's pretty much true. I think that's true. I think a lot of people are, I don't know, I guess people like their problems, and the world is a rough place. Nature is a rough place. I mean, you've seen the way that the animals behave out in nature, right? Ruthless. I mean, freaking ruthless, but beautiful. Ruthless but beautiful. And I think that that's kind of just where I'm at personally. I'm a ruthless but beautiful person, and I know that. And I know that I have to be capable of being that monster, even more so now than I ever was. But I also have to be capable of being a strong and active leader in influencing people for the better, and not for, well, the retardation and the monster. Like, the polarities of being a retard and the monster, there are polarities in those polarities. There's like a negative effect and a positive effect in both the retard and the monster. And my aim is to bring out the positive in both through videos like this, and through my one-on-one sessions, through my Godlike Master Initiation program, etc. So, with all that being said, I hope this message was useful and insightful for you. Stay blessed. Peace. Until next time.